Good morning, everyone. It's Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of GoCloud Careers. And I'm happy to be here with you today to help answer any cloud computing career training questions you have. Maybe you're looking for your first cloud architect job, or your first solution architect job, or your first network engineer job, your first enterprise architect job, or a cloud engineer job. We want to help you get to your career goals. See, I've been working in tech now for well over 25 years. And I've been helping others get their first tech job or get promoted in tech for more than 2 decades. And I want to help you build your best cloud computing career. Personally, I've been loving this cloud architect role and network architect role and enterprise architect role for a couple decades now. But you know what? In my youth, I had fun in engineering roles. And there's so many wonderful tech jobs that are out there. But here's the thing. You have to have the right skills, the ones that the employers desire. And for those reasons, we're actually here to help you find the shortest distance between 2 points, to give you that straight line for maximum career success. While we wait for you to come and ask your questions, and that's why you're here, so please ask us some questions. I want to tell you about some free things we're going to do to help you build your cloud computing career and get cloud hired, which is our favorite thing when somebody gets their first cloud job. So I want to tell you that on June 14th, we're going to have a completely free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp. I'm super excited. We do this to help others throughout the world. We've done one for the Certified Solution Architect Associate. We've done one for the AWS Advanced Networking. We've done one for the CCNA on our channel, and go check them out if you haven't seen it. And now in June, we're going to do a free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp, and it's going to be a wonderful bootcamp. We're going to have 20 minutes of discussion, 10 minutes of question and answers, so it's going to feel like a real live class for you. So want to know that you get the best training. That's why we're doing this for you, completely free on here on our YouTube channel. So please sign up. The link is in the description below and the chat box as well. The next thing I'd like to tell you about is on next Thursday. We're going to have again our completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. And this is a great webinar. People come from all over the world every week. We have lots of fun. We talk about the following: how to leverage your life experience to show the hiring manager that you're capable. The next thing that we talk about, which is lots and lots of fun, is what exactly does the hiring manager want? Because if you know exactly what the hiring manager wants, then you're in great shape. The thing after that you need to know is as follows. Exactly the role, and we'll teach you that so you know exactly what you train. Then we'll tell you exactly the training to do. We'll tell you which certifications will create the illusion of experience put on your resume to help you get that interview. And then we'll show you what you need to know to get the real knowledge to win the interview. And then after that, we'll teach you how to optimize your resume and how to skip HR, put your resume directly in touch with the hiring manager so you don't get auto-rejected by HR. Come on, come all. It's completely free. We'll talk for an hour and we'll be on Zoom. And you can ask me questions and I'll specifically answer situations specifically for you. All completely free. One thing that I have to remember, it's Memorial Day. So happy Memorial Day, or it's becoming Memorial Day weekend. We're offering 30% off every piece of training we have to really help you launch your career. I know times are tough out there with the newer, more challenging economic environments, and it's a special holiday for the warriors. So we want to make sure that we give everybody an opportunity to build their best career, earn more, and have a life that they love. So we're doing it, and 30% off. Our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, where we've been getting cloud architects hired every day. Our new Cloud Engineer Program, where we're going to be getting cloud engineers hired just as fast as we got our cloud architects hired. And of course, we've got our Tech Interview Mastery Program if you're trying to interview. And we even have a Tech Career Accelerator Program. So if you're a working cloud architect or you're a working engineer and you want to move up to management, we got you for that too. So in any case, we've got you covered for all of your career needs, 30% off. So now let's start asking questions. Bring in some questions. Tell me the things you'd like in your career. And give me a hashtag cloud hired. Good morning, Arturo. It's so wonderful to see you. Mr. Businessman over there in Atlanta, cloud hired and cloud architect. Drake, is it possible to get a remote job as a cloud architect? Of course it is. People ask me this every day, and I always say yes, yes, yes. I've been working as an architect now for the last 20 years. It's been all remote. There's no point. It's all remote. So here's the thing. If I wanted to live in Palm Beach, which I did, how many global Fortune 100 companies are in Palm Beach? None. So, I'd go to DC, I'd go to Atlanta, I'd go to London, I'd go to Dubai, I'd go to Brisbane, I'd go to Belgium, I'd go to San Jose, California, I'd go to Dallas, Texas. you name it, I would go there. There was a Cape Town trip I was supposed to go on, but somebody else on my team took it. I've been to Spain for work, and I can't Greece for work. I mean, everywhere for work. So the point is yes, as an architect, it's very possible to get a remote position. It has to be, because our customers, you have to go visit them face to face a lot of the time, and basically that means an airplane. So there's there. Now there are some cloud architects that don't have to travel if they live in New York and they get really, really, really lucky, based upon that. And for a while, I did work in New York, and I only had to travel to Raleigh and occasionally Hong Kong and to Charlotte, North Carolina, because I was working in one big bank, and I had to go to the campuses. But other than that, that was less travel. But of course, you can get a remote job as a cloud architect. I remember about a year ago, somebody wanted me to be a cloud architect for a customer in Japan. And I was like, no, I'm not working those hours from Florida. I sleep at night. But, the point, and otherwise I would have loved it. I love working with the Japanese culture, done lots of work with the Japanese world in the past, Japanese manufacturing, Japanese, just-in-time kind of supply chain stuff. Exciting stuff. But I need to sleep at night. So yes, you can. You can get a great, great, great job. Arturo, Google platform is also interesting. Well, Arturo, all clouds are the same. I mean, once you get stripped away the stupid names that the cloud providers give them, it's all the same. So Arturo, a virtual machine that you could have on a Linux system, which could be KVM or QEMU, a virtual machine on the VMware ESXi platform, a virtual machine on AWS, which is called EC2. It's the same darn 20-some-year-old technology. The compute engine instance on Google, and the Azure virtual machine, the Oracle virtual machine, they're identical technology. So Arturo, it's not like Google Cloud is also interesting. All clouds are the same. All of them, literally all of them. The only thing that's different is the name. It was kind of like the song, Meet the New Boss, same as the old boss from I think it was the Who or the Rolling Stones. It's the same thing. They're all the same. So one cloud's not more interesting than the other. They're all the same. It's just a network and a data center that's been virtualized. It's kind of funny. So I used to practice medicine a long time ago, Arturo, about 25 years ago. And the drug companies would spend millions and millions of dollars to come up with the name of the drug. And here's the problem. A drug would be on patent like Lipitor. Great statin drug to reduce cardiovascular mortality and, lower LDL and to some degree lower triglycerides. Great drug, assuming it's prescribed at the right dosage for the right reasons, the right time. Now, they called it Lipitor. It sounds so beautiful, doesn't it? But really, the name of the drug was atorvastatin. So it starts out as Lipitor, which is great. Then all of a sudden, there's 4 generics, and they have 4 different brand names. Lipitor Light, I'm making it up. Nuator, cholesterol lower. And in the end, it's crazy. You got all these silly names. So what do we do in the medical community? We don't use those names. We don't use the trade name. We use the generic name, atorvastatin. And that way, if I tell my wife I prescribe, and if I write on my chart atorvastatin this many milligrams per day, guess what? I can hand it to my wife who practices cardiology, and she could say, yes. Although now she's been working in the hospital as an inpatient hospitalist nurse practitioner, but she could say yes. I can hand it to another doctor in Europe, and they would still know the drug. But when we use these goofy names, that's in these situations when we get ourselves in trouble. Keep that in the back of your mind. So Google Cloud is interesting, Oracle Cloud is interesting, Azure Cloud is interesting, and guess what? They're all the same. Arturo, once you learn the cloud versus a cloud, you can work on any cloud anywhere, anytime. So it's kind of like this. If you can drive a car, this is a steering wheel, you're good to go, Arturo, and I call it a steering wheel. Now, if this is called an elastic rotational director vector changeometer, and then somebody else had a cloud-based angular Miller radian adjuster, and somebody else had a minute of angle changer, you wouldn't know what the heck it is. But if you call it a steering wheel, you do. So yes, Arturo, I agree with you. Google Cloud is interesting. But the reality is all the clouds are interesting because they're all the same. They're all the same. Only the names have changed, like the Bon Jovi song. Great question, Arturo. I'm so thankful you're here. Please ask some more questions. And, it's kind of interesting. Our team right now is working on a completely free Google Professional Cloud Architect book, and we're going to give it out as soon as it's finished. We're in the early stages of writing the book. It's so easy to do this. And here's an example. I wanted to test the free AWS Certified Solution Architect book we wrote. And I know cloud, and I know real cloud well because I've been involved in it since the first cloud I worked on was in 1993, Frame Relay. Then the new cloud was ATM, like 1998. No, it was like 1996, the Frame Relay cloud. 1998 was the ATM cloud I was working on. 2000, I was working on the BGP RFC 2547 cloud. 2001, I was working on the VPLS cloud. So clouds are not new. But to prove a point, I wanted to see if our AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional book was any good. So I decided to take the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam with 2 days preparation and did it based upon the content that was in our book, plus 2 days of reading the Cybex book to learn the different names so that I would know, hey, wait, a managed NoSQL databases, which AWS would call DynamoDB, Google's going to call Cloud Bigtable. That kind of thing. So all the same, only the names have changed. Yesterday was just we're wasting away. I think that's how Bon Jovi put it. I can't remember the Bon Jovi song. Chris doesn't like Bon Jovi, but I grew up in the 80s, and hard rock and weightlifting, it all went together. So Arturo, thank you for the wonderful question. So good to see you, Oluwasan. Connect Kev, you recently got your SAS and SAP, and you're working on the Red Hat. Can you start applying for junior architect jobs? Well, Kunta, I think you actually have to understand what the architect job is and understand why the certifications aren't even close to enough preparation. The architect is someone that designs, presents, and sells. We don't code, we don't configure, we design, we present, and sell. So Kunta, our job as an architect starts with asking the executive, could you tell us about your business? Could you tell us about your business pain points, your business goals? Could you tell us about what your customer is doing? Could you tell us what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to increase revenue? Are you trying to improve collaboration? Are you trying to improve your supply chain? Are you trying to improve productivity? Are you trying to create an expert network where you call one person if they're not available, you find the next person, and you can always deliver the right solution to the customer at the time? Are you working on a computer telephony system where if a financial advisor gets a call, for example, they get a screen pop on the screen that talks about the customer and their goals? Now, that we have to know that first, which means you need extreme levels of CXO relevancy, meaning the ability to speak to the CEO. You've got to have the business acumen to do an ROI model, which means you've got to be able to take a $150 million thing, architecture, and show the customer that the value of the solution is much greater than its cost. Then you need to be able to present an audience, upwards of 5,000 person audiences, because architects do it all the time. You'll need to be writing documentation. Now, if you've never entertained clients before, 25% of what we do as architects is entertaining clients. So you'll need some kind of finishing school if you've not been doing it in your life, which we provide all this training, by the way, in our training program. And you're going to have to learn what to say now, because you're going to have to sell to the CEO versus the CFO versus CIO versus the COO. And trust me, you're going to be speaking to all. You need to know what they care about, and that's called CXO relevancy. Then you need to develop something called gravitas, or executive presence. And here's the thing. I'll demonstrate the tech versus what's expected of the architect. Today, I'm going to talk about BGP. BGP is a path vector routing protocol that uses TCP port 179, and it's used for interdomain network layer reachability information. That would get me fired in the first 5 minutes as an architect because it's not CXO relevant. There's no gravitas. Now, the next thing that would matter that we do need to know is as follows. If I said BGP is a path vector routing protocol, and it's used for interdomain routing, the reason it's used is it's scalable, it's tunable. Now, all of a sudden, the customer is going to listen to me. So we need to do this. Now, Kunta Kev, we're also going to be negotiating deals upwards of $1 billion. So you're going to have negotiation skills. None of this stuff is certification. And that's why certification won't get anybody a cloud architect job. But I'm going to tell you how to do it anyway. Now, the next thing that we do, Kunta Kev, is we take this stuff from the network in the data center and we migrate it to the cloud. Now, what is that stuff? It's networking stuff and data center stuff. And again, this is not covered in certification. That's why we have our cloud architect career development program, and that's why our students get hired basically every day. So you need to understand BGP, not covered in certification. OSPF, not covered in certification. IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation. Critical, not covered in certification. Now, next you'll need to know WAN technologies, IPsec tunnels, SSL VPNs, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, and SASE minimum. Then you need to know switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking like 802.1q trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree at minimum. Now we're going to be dealing with NAT, and it's not just NAT to the internet. It's one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT, and it's NAT for when your company buys another company, etc. That's not covered enough. So none of this stuff is covered in certification. They also don't cover ARP, proxy ARP, DHCP, etc. And you need to know how those protocols function. There is a little DNS in the certification, but nowhere close to enough to actually be good at the job. So you need to learn that too. Now, you also need to understand the storage area networks. And what's covered in the Certified Solution Architect Professional, which I consider to be 5% of being job ready, that's it, no more than 5%, which means, you need to know block storage, object storage, file storage. And guess what? You can get this information from Dell EMC in a couple thousand pages and read it if you don't want to take our training. You'll still get it. Then you need to understand load balancers and how they work. So you're not going to get it in certification. Now, what they cover there is not enough to know anything. You need to go to F5 and read about their stuff. A couple hundred pages on load balancers, and then you'll get it. So security. We're not going to be securing our networks with what's taught in the AWS Advanced Security or the Certified Solution Architect Professional for the 99% of our customers, the entire enterprise architects or cloud architects. We're going to be having to know next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, VPN concentrators. And again, we teach this in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, but those are the things. So realistically speaking, certifications will get you up to 5% of what you need for the job. Only 5%. The other 95% needs training. Now, we have a Cloud Architect Career Development Program that's 500 hours in length. We take people from no background. And even if they have a background, we have to start them from the beginning because we have to teach the network and the data center skills. Now, the reality is when someone's already certified, they're trained in the wrong thing. We actually have to basically detrain the incorrect things they learned in certification, because those things in certifications are admin stuff, the name of a service and how to configure it. But we design, and it's very different. So we have to remove that, admin knowledge and turn that into architecture, which is system design knowledge. Now, Kunta, we also sell. So you need some sales training, and we also negotiate deals. So there's negotiation training. That's what we put in ours. How do we do it? We have 3 live classes per week, and in 2 classes, we do architecture, and in 1 class, in between classes, we do leadership stuff so that we train this. We then give our students hundreds of hours of projects to do, where they do a project, turn it in, we give them feedback, and then when they turn in the next project, we give them feedback, so our students get better every day. And then our students do labs. Now, look, cloud architects don't touch the technology ever, but someone's going to ask you, have you? So, look, we have our students do the AWS labs and the Azure labs that other people do, but that doesn't get anybody hired. What our labs do that gets people hired, and if you're our student, you'll do this. And if you're not our student, for about $1,500 to $2,000, you can get a server to do this stuff. Now, our course is less than $1,000, and we train you and we'll help get you hired. Or you could buy a $2,000 server on your own. I don't care. I just want you getting cloud hired. So get a Xeon server if you're not with us, or if you're with us, we'll give you a job and we'll help you do it here. At least a job title and things in your resume to help you get hired. Set up server virtualization. Build some containers and set up the orchestration. Build the firewall. Build the VPN concentrator. Set up the Linux Apache MySQL PHP stack. Set up NFS file storage for Linux users. Set up server message box storage for Windows users. Build an Active Directory server. And you know what all my students do, Kunta? They all build a cloud. And that way, when someone's like, I set up an S3 bucket like a little child, my students are like a lion. I design and build my own clouds. So that's what I recommend. That's how you get a job as a junior architect. There's no such thing as a junior architect, because we have to start with the executives, ask about their business. It's a senior position. Now, I get people that have no background hired every day. For example, you could see someone last week, Ivan Tamba. No, his first job, he just graduated college and he's now working at AWS as an architect. And for example, the week before that, we had Raul, who was a mechanical engineer who we taught in about 6 months and got his first cloud architect job. And he's fantastic. And you can do it too, but don't think for a moment that certification is going to get anybody hired. And the reality is, Kunta, that's why I decided to start this company a year ago. Instead of doing my private, high dollar volume per hour private consulting, I did it because I saw so many people that were out there that couldn't get hired. As a matter of fact, I made one single video that says how to get your first cloud architect job. And I was inundated with messages I mean, inundated them. Please help me, Mike. Please create a training program. And I did. And we've been getting people cloud hired almost every day. So that's what you need to do to get hired. We can train you, or you can learn those things on your own, but that's what you need to do to get hired. Do that and you'll get very hired. Arturo Gonzalez, excellent question. What's the difference between a cloud engineer and a cloud architect? And I also have a couple of videos on my channel, and I want you to see this, and I'm going to make more of them. So Arturo, they're so different, they might as well not even be in the same universe. So here's the job of the architect. Design, present, and sell. Say it with me, everybody. Design, present, and sell. So a day in the life in the architect is going to be the following. You're probably going to get on a conference call or two, meet with the client. You generally go to the customer site and you use your corporate credit card to buy lunch. You do a lot of entertaining clients in this job. Then you might write a thought leadership document for the industry. And then you might entertain a client and buy them dinner again on the corporate credit card. That's the standard day in the life of an architect. The next day, you may do an executive briefing where you give a presentation to the CEO, COO, CTO, CFO, CIO, etc., about why your solution can transform their business. And then the rest of that day, you're probably entertaining those clients. The day after that, you're at home in your house and you're designing the architecture while collaborating with 50 other people to make something that's going to work for the customer to transform their business. Then the architect, we're going to go to the customer site with the account manager, and we're going to try and sell it to the customer. And we're going to then be negotiating for a month or 2 or 3 until the deal's closed. And once that's done, Arturo, we leave. So we design, we present, and we sell. Now, the architect like me is a big picture person. So Arturo, tonight, go out and look at the sky, assuming it's clear. Look at the whole sky, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, the moon, the stars. It's going to be beautiful. I love looking at the sky. That is the cloud architect. We have to take this bird's eye view and look at the whole world. We're big picture because what you do over here can affect something in this part of the system. So we always have to take the big picture. We are the people that tie the pieces together. So Arturo, a building architect, for example, designs this building, 1,000-meter tall building, and it's got a lush waterfall and a glass elevator. And there's beautiful gardens, and they draw the blueprints for this. That is the architect. Now, once the customer says, yes, I want that, the architect hires a construction crew. Now, once the cloud architect is done designing it, we hire a construction crew to build it. Who's that construction crew? The cloud engineer. So the cloud engineer is a deeply, deeply, deeply technical person. And they're going to be the ones that configure the cloud. They'll be setting up things with the CLI, the management console. The cloud engineer will need to code where the cloud architect does not code. The cloud engineer will need to know Python. The cloud engineer will need to know bash scripting at minimum. Now, the cloud architect will never touch the tech. So Terraform is not a relevant skill for an architect. But the cloud engineer may be deploying some infrastructure as code. So the cloud engineer needs to know Terraform. So the cloud engineer is going to be setting up the network, setting up the security, setting up the databases, setting up the VPC, setting up the VPC peering, setting up all the communications between it. So architect is the designer and the cloud engineer is the builder. You know those two things and you're good. But here's the thing, Arturo, like when we train our clients and in your life, do not learn AWS and say, I'm comfortable. You must learn the cloud. Meaning, if you know that virtual machine, you know it in 3 clouds. If you know block storage, you know it in every cloud. So we teach in our program, you know, the Certified Solutions Architect Professional and the Azure Solution Architect Expert. And we also teach the OpenStack Cloud because every cloud architect will be designing and building their own clouds for their customers. Nutanix clouds, OpenStack clouds. And 87% of customers are now multi-cloud, meaning more than one cloud. And 97% want to be at the end of the year. So you make sure in your journey, you don't think you just learn in AWS or in Azure. You need to know the cloud. Because if you know the cloud, you can work everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Hope I answered your question. It's a designer versus a builder. Drake Caro, we are very simple. Our payments are upfront on our website. There's a link to our website. The prices are open, upfront, fair for all, and they're in US dollars. So if somebody buys with our credit card, it'll be there. We're not in a position where we're doing funny one-offs and payments at some point.
Maybe at some point we consider accepting Bitcoin for payment, but our payment gateways are not designed to do that. And we need to keep everything exactly priced on the website, minus whatever the acceptable discount is. We can't charge different things, and we can't pick methods, payment methods via weird ways. We have to basically do things that would be open and honest. And right now, how will we do it on crypto? What's the exchange rate going to be? What are the gas fees going to be? What's going on? How can I even tell you how many Bitcoin to pay or parts of Ethereum to pay? The price of these things is so volatile. So no, we actually use standard, straight, upfront, fair to the world pricing, and it's in US dollars. Arturo Gonzalez, how important is coding in the cloud? It depends on the job. An architect like me, and I've been an architect for 25 years, has no idea how to code because that's not my job. A cloud engineer needs to know how to code. A cloud developer, that's their whole job is coding. A cloud DevOps engineer, they got to be an expert software developer who also knows it. SysOps, which is a maintenance job, which I don't recommend or train anybody for. And it's definitely, if you want to be an architect, will tell you don't ever get that certification on your resume if you want to be an architect, because it'll build you the wrong brand and make it harder for you to get hired. But in SysOps, because they're doing maintenance work, they're going to automate with some Python scripts and Bash scripts. So it all depends on the job. It's like anything else. The cloud is like an airport. With links, you can go to Cape Town, you can go to Lagos, you can go to New York, you can go to London, you can go to Reading, you can go to Madrid, you can go to Barcelona, you can go to Athens, you can go to Istanbul, you can go anywhere you want. So each one of those planes has a different destination. And Arturo, each one of these careers has a unique skill set, which is why when they have like master's degrees in cloud computing, it's totally irrelevant, because basically they teach skills that don't create architects, don't create engineers, don't create admins, because they're teaching generic stuff. So I like to say, train for the job you want, not somebody else's job. So if you tell me the job you want, I can tell you exactly what you need to do. But the job you want actually determines who's coded what. Drake Caro, has anybody been hard with just your recorded training? Yeah, you can look at Raul's video from 2 weeks ago. He was never ever able to make it to class, and we still got hired, and lots of people did. In fact, after that, that's when we started creating the just recorded versions, when we knew we could get people hired with just this training. No, look, I'm not going to tell you it's anywhere close to as good as in-person training, live training, because if you can come to class and I can look you in the eye and you ask me a question and I can interview you in class, I can coach you in class. A little more gravitas, make a point, pause, vary your vocal tone a little more. And I can do that in class, but I can't do that off of class. We can do it with the homework assignments, which we do, and we'll give you guidance on it. But if I see you 50 times in class and you do all this stuff in the recorded sessions, it's a better experience. But anybody should be able to get hired with any of our programs. We were very concerned about making sure our programs are excellent and getting everybody else hired. To me, there's no other reason to do this other than to get hired. Any bozo can get somebody certified. Any bozo can do it. And after looking at some of the training that's out there, I know exactly how easy anybody can get somebody certified. Then again, I could get somebody certified at the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional in 2 days if I wanted to, by pointing them to 1 or 2 websites on the internet where they can buy a copy of the exam like most people do. So that's the key. The key is knowledge, 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 business acumen, leadership, emotional intelligence, sales skills, executive presence, leadership skills, knowledge and network in the data center. That's what's going to get you hired. And we have no reason to believe you wouldn't get hired if you did the recorded one, assuming you did all of the work. All of the work. Great question, though. We'd love to see you being cloud hired very soon. We'd love to work with you. Asim, of course you can do the course if you're a complete beginner. Look on our YouTube channel, Complete Beginner. Romanek Ivan Tamba just got hired by AWS. Complete Beginner. Raul just got hired as a cloud architect. I had a geospatial imaging, GIS, one of those guys that looks at the earth, is really cool to do things. He got hired as a cloud architect. I had a bodyguard that got hired as a cloud architect. Lots of people that got hired as a cloud architect. Here's why. This is not a certification training program. And yeah, sure. We do get you certified, and we give you the certifications for the Azure Solution Architect Expert and the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. But you got to remember, that's basic intro to junior level cloud stuff. That's about 5% of what you actually need. So we're going to start you in from the beginning. We're going to build the best fundamentals you can. Then once you know the fundamentals, we'll teach you the technology, what it is that gets done. Then we'll teach you how to design the technology. We'll teach you how to sell it, present it, perform business cases on it. We'll teach you everything that you need to do. Our program is over 500 hours in length. And here's the thing. I'm so concerned that people get cloud hired that I don't even care how long you stay in the program. I mean it. I'm actually not joking. So other people would run a 16-week program and keep it to 16 weeks. Not us. We'll let you stay in the program until you're cloud hired or when year passes. So you can literally be in the live classes for a year. Now, after that year's over, we're not going to take your recorded content away because you might actually want it in your job. That's why we can make sure our people are getting hired. So if you're in my course and you're brand new and it takes you 11 months versus 4 months, so what? Who cares? We love you. We want you getting hired. So that's why we're a little different. And yes, you can do it as an absolute beginner. And you can work at your own pace. I had somebody, for example, that had to go to Ethiopia for 3 months. She came back and we worked with her. We were thrilled to have her. We love her, love her, love her. So that's the key. That's all what it takes. Come in. We'll teach you everything you need to know, slowly, methodically. Now it'll take you longer. Typically, people with a tech background take about 4 to 6 months to get hired. And people without a tech background, it's about 6 to 8 months. But that's okay. And a lot of the time, people with a big tech background are at a disadvantage because they have to unlearn some of the ways they've been thinking about tech to think like an architect. So when you have a tech advantage, you understand the tech to a degree, which is helpful. But in many cases, we have to teach how to get out of the cut tech, for example, and then you should be good to go. So we can take you there. We've got lots of people with no background hired. We'd love to help you not get hired too. But do the work. We have the course, and we can easily do it. Can you do it part-time? Yeah, we have lots of people do it. Our course is 500 hours. So if you put in 10 hours a week, in 50 weeks, that's about 500 hours. I'd say you probably need about 15 hours a week if you've got no background, but doing that, you should be really solid in the end of the year. Of course, you can do it part-time. Our live classes are 2 hours, 3 times a week. The video content, which we record in case you miss one, the video content is completely self-paced. The homework assignments are self-paced, and the labs are self-paced. So yeah, of course, lots of people doing it part-time. I don't expect you to do it 100% full-time. Lawson, as a cloud architect, we design, we present, and we sell. So no cloud architect uses Terraform. Now, cloud engineers use Terraform, but you know who really uses Terraform? As DevOps engineers. But cloud architects design, present, and sell. So it doesn't involve design. Now, in order to design, you've got to have a good knowledge of the network and the data center and how the stuff works. See, implementation is how to do it. Click, 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 click here. Which command? That's implementation. But architects design. So you start thinking, if I've got 2 equal cost connections to AWS, for example, 2 direct lines, and of course, they'd never be on the same service provider because that would be insanity with regards to availability. If this links on AWS, for example, and this links on, if this links on AT&T and this links on NTT, another great company, and if I don't do anything and I want to load share across both links, I'm going to get out of order packets, which is going to cause a problem. My data will go out NTT, come back AT&T. It's a nightmare. So if I wanted to load share, I'd have to think, what tools do I have to load share on these links? And I'd say, okay, I'm running BGP. So could I leak a more specific subnet on one versus a more specific subnet on another and an aggregate route on both to load share? Yes, I could. Could I change the weight and ingress to modify load sharing? Yes, I could. Could I change the local preference and influence things? Yes. Could I prepend ASs on the way in or the way out? Yes. Could I send a BGP community, match the community and tag it and do something? The answer is yes. Could I change the multi-exit discriminator of a route and therefore prioritize one link versus another? Again, I could do it. Could I change the BGP origin code? Could I take it from incomplete to EGP to IGP to make it more priority? I sure could. So LOS, and that's what I need to think about as an architect. How do I design this and make it work? Now, we need to know the why and the way to tune things as far as the big picture. It's kind of like the human body. The brain affects the heart, which also affects the lungs, which affects the blood vessels. And in architecture, it's like a symphony. You got a violinist, you got a guitarist, you got some drummers, you got some flutists and bass, whatever they play. It's like a symphony. So what makes the architects so good is they're not engineers. The engineers are the expert tuba players or drum players. They're an expert on one thing. We're the big picture person. Our magic is we try and bring the pieces and parts and conduct it like an orchestra. We're like the orchestra conductor. So because of that, now you know what we do. We orchestrate the components. We orchestrate the experts to solve a customer's business problem. And involved in orchestration, no hands-on. So, awesome. As an architect, you will likely never see the cloud. I'm going to say it again. You will likely never see it. You will never touch the technology. You will never configure the technology. And when you've got a proof of concept, you're going to be managing a team of cloud engineers. They're going to do that for you too. This is the job of design, present, and sell. By the way, that's why I pay so much more, because we design, present, and sell. So think about it this way. And I love engineers, but why do architect jobs pay more? Well, if I go meet with a bank and I convince the bank to buy my $200 million architecture, and I convince the bank that my $200 million architecture will give them $800 million in business value, they'll buy it. Now I go back to my company, I say, hi, manager, I just sold $200 million. And my manager says, here's a $400,000 commission check. Thank you so much, Mr. Gibbs. So that's the reason why when you're an architect, you're bringing money into the company. When you're the engineer, you cost the company money. Now, reality is, and that's why companies are cuckoo. I can design the most beautiful PowerPoint slides, the most beautiful documents, give the best presentations. But if we don't have that super smart cloud engineer to go build it, guess what? There's nothing other than PowerPointware, which is vaporware. So architects do no Terraform. And here's the problem, Austin. Most architects are trying to learn Terraform, and they're trying to learn configuration. And then they go in an interview, and the manager asks them, to explain a technology, to present a technology, and they're like, I can set a Terraform. And the manager says, yeah, but I don't want that in an architect. I want that in a DevOps engineer. So the key is Terraform's cool for the right thing. Look, it's all a tool. If you went into your doctor's office and they had a saw on the wall, and hammers on the wall and screwdrivers on the wall, you'd say, am I going to a handyman or am I going to a doctor? And that's really the thing. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Michael Brimage, thank you for your service, first and foremost. Many job descriptions make the cloud engineer and cloud architect search inexplainably. Can I explain why this happens? I absolutely can. I can also tell you what the industry is trying to do about it, Michael. I'll actually read to you what us in the industry have worked so hard to do, because so many of us have been architects for so long. Bear with me a second, and I'll get you this answer. So here's what goes on. So Michael, I want to make it clear to you that there's a difference between a job description that's written by a hiring manager and a job description that's made by HR. So I want you to understand the problem, Michael. If you meet with me and I interview you, Michael, and first I'm going to say, again, thank you for your service, and I interview you, I can ask you a question, and I can know if you're solid. I will ask you a technology question. Now, HR can't do it. In fact, one time I was in an interview many, many years ago, and HR decided to ask me a technology question. The question was, what's the multicast address of an OSPF And I said, are you looking for the multicast to all SPF routers, or are you looking for the multicast address of all DR routers? Meaning 224.0.0.5 is used by all SPF routers, but 224.0.0.6 is used by all designated routers. Now the HR person says, I need an answer. And I said, I gave you an answer. And she said, well, maybe this is not the career for you. It was a screener exam. And I said, no, I'm an expert on this. There are two addresses. And these were the funny days of instant messaging. I knew I wasn't going to work in this company. So here's what I said to them. I said, why don't you send an instant message to one of your distinguished engineers and ask them how many addresses are used by the OSPF Is it just 224.0.0.5 or is it 224.0.6? Oh, by the way, ma'am, my CCI number is 7417, and I've been teaching OSPF for almost 5 years now. So the woman sends a message to this distinguished engineer. The distinguished engineer says, I have to hire him immediately. And the distinguished engineer then said, oh my God, we've hired 50 people that didn't know this to ask that question. You hire him immediately and you make him a trainer of our people. Now, from there, I went, okay, I don't want this job. I went to Cisco and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. But the point is, HR doesn't know. Now, Michael, I want to give you another problem. 5,000 people apply for every single job. My God, 5,000 people. Now, the last time I checked, AWS had 2,510 pages of job offerings, web pages of job offerings at 10 per page. So now imagine 5,000 job applications. So, Michael, here's what we get. I need someone from the SEAL Team Dev Group. I need 3 Olympic gold medals. I need 50 years experience in network engineering, 32 years experience in data center engineering, et cetera, et cetera. Then, Michael, here's what happens. This person gets sent up to us hiring managers because HR looks good. They got 1,000,001 skills, right? I interview them and they don't know anything about how to design things, present things, or sell things. So I then call my favorite recruiter. I tell my recruiter what they want, and she calls me within 24 hours. I've got placement on a candidate, and that's how you. But here's the thing. I know what architects do because I've been doing it for 20 years. My students know what architects do because we've taught them. The graduates that we get hired every single day are all doing the same job. And all the cloud architects I know, we started looking at job descriptions. It was like every once in a month we'd get together and have a cocktail, at least virtually. And then we'd say, hey, want some entertainment? Let's look at a cloud architect job description. Because it was like, what are you even doing? It was fun. So I wasn't the only one that got frustrated. The thousands of architects that I know weren't the only ones that got frustrated. Gartner decided to do something about it. And I'm so thankful Gartner did. So Gartner did the following. Gartner decided to say, hey, we're going to ask CIOs all over the world, what do you want in a cloud architect? We're going to have you tell us. So for those of you who don't know, you want to know who the best cloud is? Ask Gartner. Want to know who's making the best trends in routing? Ask Gartner. Best trends in software-defined networking? Ask Gartner. Best trends in anything? Ask Gartner. Gartner said, we see stupid job descriptions. CIOs, what do you want? So the CIO runs the IT department for the whole company. So the CIO is your boss. So the CIOs, and it's published in CO magazine, my team will pop that link in the thing, they asked, but they were published. And here's what was published. According to Gartner, the 3 main high-level responsibilities of a cloud architect are leading the cultural change for cloud adoption, developing and coordinating a cloud strategy, developing a cloud strategy and coordinating the adoption process, find talent with the necessary skills, assessing application software and hardware, creating a cloud broker team, establishing best practices for the cloud across the company, selecting cloud providers and vetting third-party services, overseeing governance and mitigating risks, managing budgets and estimate costs, and operated scale. That's the customer saying, this is what I want in a cloud architect. They're telling you what they want. So the problem is a lot of people don't know what the cloud is, Michael. And because a lot of people don't know what the cloud is, I deal with it all the time. I saw somebody make a message on LinkedIn that was trying to compare a hard drive with object storage. And they were trying to say that, is this a good way to explain the cloud to executives? And I was like, well, no, because object storage and a hard drive are 2 different use cases. And the cloud is more than this. It's just a network and a data center, not just storage. But the person was working in cloud and didn't even know. So when we're actually talking about those kind of things, so that's really the key. So that's why we're seeing these stupid job descriptions. I'm going to tell you this, Michael. I've never applied to a job where I had more than 10% of what was listed on the job description. I've applied for 5 jobs. I got hired by all 5. There was that 6 jobs I walked out and said, no, thank you. But I've never been in an interview where I wasn't hired because I knew exactly what the hiring manager wanted because I researched the job. So, Michael, you've got a huge background. You've done so much for so many. Thank you again for your service. I hope you enjoy the special Vet Memorial Day discount. And I hope you really take some time and think about family and friends. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. But that's why this is going on. And how do you deal with it? You use a recruiter. So I've got a really great recruiter. Her name is Christina. You know what I do every single time when there's a job description that's cuckoo? Or she does? She calls the hiring manager and says, what would you like? And they're like, oh, don't look at that crazy HR wish list. I need someone that can do this, this, and this. So I always find out. I'll ask other people. And if you see a job description and you know somebody at the company, ask what they do in their jobs. Because it's not listed in any of these job descriptions, the fact that 25 to 50% of your time might be buying dinners and drinks and entertaining clients. But that's exactly what we do. If you have more questions, Michael, I'd love to answer them. And thank you for coming and thank you for your service. Greta N, after beginning and completing a cloud practitioner, what is my recommendation to go to? Well, the cloud practitioner is a nice intro to help you solve cloud stuff. The question I asked for you is, what would you like to do? So here's the thing. Certifications don't drive your career. Studying doesn't drive your career. You drive your career. Do you want to be a doctor? You go to medical school. Do you want to pilot? You go to pilot school. Do you want to be a lawyer? You go to law school. If you want to be a cloud architect, you go to cloud architect school. If you want to be a cloud engineer, you go to cloud engineer school. Want to be a DevOps engineer? Go to the DevOps engineer school. But you got to tell me what you'd like to do on the cloud. And here's the reason why. A lot of certification providers are saying you should get all the associates, which is the worst advice ever. Never, never, never weaken your portfolio by getting 1,000,001 associates. Because it kills your brand. They want professional certs, not associate certs. The next thing that I would tell you is as follows. If you went to a doctor and they posted their law school graduation, and then they posted their dog walking business and their house cleaning business and their carpentry business, you're not going to feel confident in that doctor. So what job would you like? And then we're going to fill it in with a laser-like focus. We're going to teach you how to be an expert at your job. Because if you're an expert at your job, you'll get hired. But just randomly searching things and hoping you do something with the certification is not a strategy that's going to be successful. Every one of these jobs needs things that is about 10 times more than what's in a certification. And if you tell me which job it is, I can tell you those gaps. But we need to know that. Asim, yes, we have 3 live sessions per week. 3 live sessions via Zoom, which we record in case people can't make it. The first live session in the Cloud Architect program is Tuesday morning at Chris, is it Tuesday morning at 9 a.m.? Or is it Tuesday at 4 p.m.?
It's Tuesday at 9.
Okay, Tuesday at 9, Thursday at 4, Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern, which actually equates to 2 p.m. UK time. The next live session we have is at Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, which is 9 p.m. UK time. And the third session we have is at 12 p.m. on Friday, and that is not as 5 p.m. UK time. These are the times we use because it accomplishes our client base, which is in the US, the UK, Canada, all over Europe, and all over Africa. And it still gets us into the Middle East. And we do have students in Asia, but they do manage to get there somehow. Lakasami, is networking in basic Linux or the prerequisites required before you get into the cloud? Well, what job would you like in the cloud? Because they all have different prerequisites. So I can't just say cloud. Again, cloud's like an airport with 1,000 different planes going into 1,000 different destinations. So if you tell us what job you want, then I can tell you if Linux. As an architect, you need to understand the Linux kernel, but you don't need to play with Linux because you don't touch the technology. As an architect, you need to know all about this. Now, the DevOps engineer doesn't need to know much about networking. So the key is knowing what is the job. That's the determination of everything. So we need to figure out the job first, and then we can guide you. Asim, no, we would never teach anything for just AWS. We create people that are hireable. If you got all 11 AWS certifications, you wouldn't be hireable for anything because you'd be a jack of all trades and a master of none. We have to, as architects, deal with reality. Reality is 87% of customers are on more than one cloud, which means we teach all clouds because if you only know one cloud, you're unemployable in today's space. So no, we don't just teach AWS only. We teach all clouds. Every architecture we do in every class is done on a minimum of 2 clouds, minimum, sometimes 3 clouds. And we have to deal with the complicated routing, the security between clouds, because that's what the customers demand. So we teach all clouds the same, and we'd love to train you. We'd love to work with you and love to help you get cloud hired, but we have to teach all clouds because we want you to be the best. No customer wants to hire somebody that only knows one cloud. I wouldn't. And none of the customers that I know would either. So we teach all clouds. And the way we do it is we teach you how to drive. So steering wheel, guess what? All clouds have a steering wheel, effectively. Accelerator. Now, if I called this a cloud-based potentiometer, which would for an electrical car, and I call this an elastic base voltage amperage regulator deregulator, you might say, oh my God, this is hard to learn. But if I just told you It's an accelerator. You know how to use it. So that's the key. We teach the cloud, and it's easy, easy, easy. Not so stubby. Are you an OSPF guy like me? Hi, Mike. Many articles and texts say that the future of networking is automation, and network engineers need to be expert coders. Can I share my thoughts on that? So, not so stubby. I think there's the two things. It depends on where you want to be as a network engineer. So, for example, my CCI number 7417. I taught a tremendous. That was back when it was a 2-day test. Back when it was hard. Before Cisco made it easy because the pass rate was so bad by turning it into a 1-day test. It's still not easy, but it wasn't like what it was then. The reality is, in today's world, the average network engineer is going to need to know Python and learn how to code. Not be an expert coder because it's scripting, but it's there. Now, the really good network engineers may not need to, and here's the reason why. If you're really, really good, and when you're looking at an OSPF architecture that's got 800 nodes, for example, and let's say you've got to have 100 nodes in area 0 because you've got running inside there. And if you've got a flat 100 node area 0, which is disgusting, and I've worked with much more than that, and then you need to run OSPLS, you're running MPLS, you're putting some RSVP signaling in there, and then you're setting up your primary backup and explicit paths for your tunnels. The person that's dealing with those kind of in the weeds, heavy duty engineering does not need the code. The person who's planning the BGP architecture and the route reflectors architectures for the world's largest ISPs, which includes some architects and some design engineers, they're not going to need the code. Now, the person that's going to go in the routers, router BGP 65312, neighbor 192.168.1.1, remote AS 653.1.3, network 192.168, mask 192.168.0.0, mask 255.255.0.0. That person needs to code. So it depends on which network engineer you are. Are you that deep, deep, deep expert? Are you planning? Okay, well, let's make our OSPF architecture. Now, because we have 6,000 routers in OSPF, this one only has one egress point, and there's no external LSAs that need to go there. Let's make this area totally stubby. Now, this area, I only want type 1s and type 2s in there, but, really, I've got to redistribute these connected routes, so I can't have a type 5, so I've got a type 7 coming in there, and a not so stubby area. Yeah. Now, this area needs to be a stub area, but we can take in summary routes because we need a little more intelligence. So the person that's designing and architecting that does not need to be the expert coder. The router OSPF1 guy, that person or girl, that one needs to know how to code because that's, the blending of engineering and implementation. And most engineers do touch the tech. So it depends on how level you are. If you're that expert level, then chances are you don't need to code. You can focus on the network. But if you're not that expert level, you will need to learn to code, especially Python. Not expert coders. And here's what an expert coder is, not somebody that's coded one language for 10,000 hours. That's what an expert coder is. Expert coder. Arturo, do I think vendor neutral certifications are good? No. So here's the thing. The only vendor neutral certifications that I like are the CISSP and the CCSP. They're the only two that I like. I would avoid all CompTIA ones, and there's nothing wrong with CompTIA certification at all. But the only certifications that matter are basically in the CO magazine's most wanted list. And here's the reason why. That's what the CEOs read. That's what they tell their hiring managers they need. So, CompTIA stuff, I would trash all of that. I wouldn't do any of them. Not bad certifications, but no hiring managers looking for them. And no certifications get anybody hired ever. Now, what is actually closer to vendor neutral, as pathetic as it sounds, is actually the Cisco exams. Cisco and even Red Hat, if they make an exam, they're vendor-based, but they're more neutral. If you deal with the 75,000 pages that you would read in a CCIE, for example, 65,000 or 70,000 of those is vendor neutral stuff. It's the OSPF protocol, the hellos, the dead timers, the LSAs, the way the calculations are running, the protocol. That's the same on every router in every world. So whether it's a Cisco router or a Juniper router, an Extreme Network switch, it's all going to work together because the protocols are the same. So the Cisco one is actually more vendor neutral. The reality is a lot of people have worked really hard. There is no certification that prepares people for professional jobs. I want to make it clear what certifications are. Certifications are the name of a service and how to configure that service. So for the junior level fresher admin roles that used to exist, that's really great. Here's S3 bucket. Click these 3 buttons and set it up for somebody. That's what that is. That's all it is. It's in certification. Now, when the customer says to me, Mike, I have 40,000 remote locations, 100,000 subnets, 200,000 virtual machines, 20 exabytes of storage, or something crazy like that. How do we deal with it? That's what we do as an architect. And that's not covered in certification. That's covered in knowledge. That's why we train people how to be an architect, because that's not certification knowledge. Certification is this. So imagine if you trained a doctor on certification. Here's a yellow pill, a red pill, and a green pill. The red pill is 200 milligrams, the green pill is 300 milligrams, and the blue pill is 400 milligrams. But we're not going to teach you how to diagnose, doctor. We're not going to teach you what these pills are used for, doctor. Here's your pills. Hand them out. That's exactly what certification training is. Akam. Hi, hello, Mike. Happy to be here with you. Can you enlighten me the difference between a cloud architect and an enterprise architect? Which one will be more profitable? It's almost the same job, Akeem. Which one gets paid more? What determines what you get paid? The impact you make to your customer. So, Akam, I'm going to talk about high-value skills, and I'm going to talk about low-value skills. Knowledge of how to design tech systems. High-value skill, worth a lot of money. Knowledge to configure systems, worth a lot less. I don't know why. Somebody made it up, not me. Now, the impact you make as an architect on the organization determines what you'll be paid. If you're a cloud architect and you can meet with a customer and you can design a transformative solution for their business that improves their business acumen, that improves their business either by increasing sales or decreasing operational expenditures, which is a huge factor for businesses, cutting down those operational expenditures, cutting out waste in the system, improving employee productivity, using technology to lay off people, for example, which is something companies are going to start asking people in a downward economy how to do. If you do that as an enterprise architect or a cloud architect, you're going to get paid the same. And the reason is you're providing that level of digital transformation. Here's the difference, Akam. When you get someone that basically is not a real architect and is trying to be an architect, and they walk into the CEO's room and they say, I got this solution for you that's got AWS S3, EC2, EBS, DynamoDB, 3 internet gateways, WAF, and Shield. Now, reality is that person's going to be fired within 48 hours from that job because they couldn't communicate to the executive in terms of they wanted to. But I've seen some technical architects that try and do that stuff, and they stay tech. Guess what? No customer buys tech. No customer wants tech. They hate it. Tech is an expense. Businesses buy tech because you can show them that the tech provides a competitive advantage. And then for the competitive advantage, businesses are willing to spend money. So if you're a cloud architect, you can do it. Heck, I was working as a solution architect at one point doing enterprise architect work. What's the difference between enterprise work and solution architect work? I look at the end-to-end big picture. What does a great cloud architect do? Look at the end-to-end big picture. What does a bad cloud architect do? We're looking for WAN modernization. Okay, let me look at your WAN. That's terrible. That's not a transformational specialist. That's a, hey, we called you. We know what we want and go build it for me. That's a construction worker. And whether that construction worker is called an architect or an engineer, that's a construction worker. That's where the salaries are low. So Akam, I'm going to tell you right now, I had a manager about 20 years ago. He pulls me into a room and said, this is 20 years ago. And he says, Mike, do you know the difference between a $150,000 systems engineer like you and a $300,000 architect? Tell me. And my manager says, it's the impact you can put into the organization. How do you determine the impact that you can put in an organization? Michael, it's your executive presence. It's your emotional intelligence. It's your ability to lead people into delivering a solution. It's your ability to lead a team, Mike, because my manager said, if you've got one person on your team, you can only do one person things. But if you've got 100 people on your things, you could do a lot more. So that's that. He then said sales skills, executive presence, etc. I got sent to training. I paid for some training. Training was about $250,000 all said in total to learn these skills. It paid for itself almost overnight. So what determines your ultimate salary is how much of a change you can do for the company. And all of that is exactly good for you. Kingsley, what is the learning path for a cloud solution architect? Well, the easiest thing is to take our cloud architect career development program because it's got everything you need to learn. But if you're not with us, I will tell you what to do. Now, if you do this on your own, I'm going to let you know it's going to probably cost you 5 to 10 times the cost, and it's going to take you a lot longer. I'm also going to tell you that the average cloud architect earns $600 a day, and a good one can easily earn double that. And if we can get you hired a year faster, we're basically earning you about $160,000 of not money that's not wasted in terms of opportunity cost time. So keep that in the back of your mind. So next, what do you need to learn? You need to know how to design systems, not how to code, not how to configure, how to design, which means you can't design what you don't know. So you need to learn from the networking side, BGP, in depth, BGP tuning, etc. Probably should know the interior gateway protocols, such as OSPF. You must know WANs because you're going to be connecting systems via WAN, which means you must know IPsec VPNs, SSL VPNs, Ethernet private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, potentially 5G in the future, software-defined networking, and SASE. Now, we're going to be creating an IP addressing scheme, Kingsley. And Kingsley, if the IP address is wrong, everything is wrong. So you need to really be good at IP subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation, etc. Now, we're going to be mergers and acquisitions, which means we need to know that because we're going to be dealing with overlapping address space. We're going to have to know how to deal with the business and security concepts of mergers and acquisitions, etc. So then we're going to need to know some switching technology such as VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, like 802.1q tagging. Now, once we get into switching, we start getting involved in the spanning tree and rapid spanning tree. And those kind of things are going to be really critical. Now, you really need to understand DNS, ARP, proxy, ARP, DHCP, and those protocols from the networking side. Then on the storage side, you really need to learn server virtualization and containers. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's on our class. It's not covered in certification to any depth. So if you're not with us, you can go to the VMware website, read a couple hundred pages about virtualization. You can do it on the KVM and QEMU website, and then you'll understand the virtualization. So you know how to architect it, which is different than how to configure it. Then after that, you'll need to understand containers. So you can get lots of information completely free from the Docker and Kubernetes people, but it's going to be a few hundred pages for you to get the knowledge you need to know how to design it. Then beyond that, you need to know storage, block storage, object storage, file storage, a couple hundred pages from IBM and Dell EMC, and you should be good to go on that knowledge. Now, after that, what you're going to need to know is the kinds of databases to use. You need to be very familiar with relational databases and NoSQL databases. You need to get familiar with file sharing protocols such as NFS and server message block. You'll also need to know about load balancers. Again, about 500 pages of knowledge worth, the kind you would get from F5. You can get it from their website. When you're done this, you need to understand firewalls, next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, etc. IDS, IPS systems, and again, for a few thousand pages, you can get that from Cisco, Fortinet, Checkpoint, and Cisco, or Palo Alto. But then you need to understand how enterprise applications work and why businesses use them. Why would you use a CRM application versus this? Now, because this is an executive position, you will be giving speeches. You will need executive communication training, CXO relevancy training, ROI modeling training to show the customer the value of the solution is greater than its cost. You probably need a little bit of training on responding to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, because that's the kind of thing we're going to do. You will need sales training because you're going to have to do this. And you will need leadership training, negotiation training, and executive communication training. That's the learning pathway to become a cloud architect. It's not hands-on configuration. It's design, design, design. And we need deep knowledge of how things work versus how to configure them. The cloud architect route is still technical, but it's design technical versus hands-on technical. Great question, Kingsley. We'd love to train you. And you could do it with us, but you could do it on your own, but now you know how. James Foreman, how does one train executive presence? Well, executive presence is related to your gravitas, which is related to the space and time you take up, meaning I have less gravitas, I have more gravitas. It's related to variations in your vocal tone or pauses. Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm a BGP expert. No gravitas. Hi, my name is Mike. I'm a BGP expert. So it's variation of vocal tone, it's posture, it's gestures, it's taking up space. Have to do it. And there's lots of training. We work on this with our students with every single video they turn in. Great question, James. Chris, you can go to the next one. I know we have a lot of questions today. And I'll stay a little late if I have to. Nelly, so you have no experience in text. You can only afford one exam. Between AWS Pro or CCNP, that will be, of course, in addition to your course. If you can only afford one exam, do the Azure Solution Architect Expert. It's free. And then do the CCNP. And you'll be great. Alex, number of years as a solution architect if you want to become an enterprise architect? There's no set still in anything. Here's the determination. How good are you? So I'll give you an example. I was a lead architect within 6 months of the time I decided I wanted to work in technology. I was doing enterprise architecture work within 6 months. But it's what I wanted to do. If the person that's a solution architect really has good executive skills, good communication skills, maybe 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden they're a cloud architect. Now, by comparison, if someone works as a solution architect for 10 years and they focus on getting 10x AWS certified, and they're not working on their business acumen, their executive presence, they're working on hands-on tech skills, they'll never get there, Alex, because they're going to be training all the wrong skills. So it depends on your laser-like focus, your energy, your passion, and can you commit to one thing, or are you all over the place? So it could be done in a year or two. It could be done, it could be never done by some people. It's based upon how much they want to do it in their mind, how much they're willing to do it in their heart, and are they willing to embrace that the enterprise architect is much less technical. It's much more business. So they've got to let a lot of the technical go, which is very hard for a lot of architects. It wasn't for me, because I looked at it and said, hey, wait, business fun. Too technical. I enjoy business fun more. But see, the thing is, Alex, I say that, and yet in my house, I've got 200 cores running in a single cloud with a couple of terabytes of RAM in my little private cloud. I've got enterprise firewalls and IDS IPS systems and a 10 gig Cisco switch network in my house. And I'm coming at you right now from a 64 core workstation with a half a terabyte of RAM in it and a Quadro A6000 card. So you get the concept, A5000 card, sorry. So you get the concept. I'm a geek too. But if you embrace the leadership skills, you'll get that much faster. Great question. Chris, you want to bring in the next one? Kingsley, a cloud administrator is very different than an engineer, and it's completely different than an architect. So a cloud admin is this. Here, configure this. The cloud admin doesn't know how it works. The cloud admin needs to be supervised by an engineer. Configure this, Kingsley. So the cloud admin's like a $20 an hour job in the US. Basic, if you can get them. There's almost no reason for cloud admins anymore. Here's the reason why. I don't need anybody to do that because I can replace 10 cloud admins with one DevOps engineer. So that's what a cloud admin would do. And that's the only thing you can learn from training. Now, a cloud engineer is a builder. So the cloud engineer is an expert technology professional. So they don't just know how to configure stuff like the admin. They know how it works and why it works. And because the engineer is a professional, they need to know networking, BGP, OSPF, all those things we just talked about. Now, that the engineer is hands-on. That engineer is going to need to code. That engineer is going to need to configure, know Linux, Terraform, etc. And they're going to have to know how stuff works. Now, the architect is the designer who designs, presents, and sells. So as an architect, I design, present, and sell. Then I hand it off to a team of engineers, and they make sure it's going to work. They optimize the technology and generally build it. But in some companies, the architect like me designs it, hands it to the engineers who engineer it, and then they have to do some junior admin person and say, here, click, configure this. But now that we have DevOps, most of that's gone. So the reality is most of those fresher roles are dead, which is why we train people to be cloud architects and cloud engineers, and we don't waste our time for these junior level roles, Kingsley. Because here's why. It could take you 2 years to get a cloud admin role, and we could probably get you hired as a cloud architect in a year. So when we're talking about these things, I don't work hard to train people to get to the bottom. I start people off at mid-grade or top grade, because by doing it that way, the rest of their career is upward mobile like a rocket ship. But now you know the difference between all three. Great question, Kingsley. Chris, you want to bring in the next one? Is it smarter for the architect sourcing and then go something like a security specialty? Well, I'm going to tell you this right now, Arturo. That AWS Advanced Security is a waste of everybody's time. There's so nothing in it that's useful. I wouldn't even waste my time. Now, the CISSP would work. And if you don't have 5 years experience, you can take and pass the CISSP exam and you get titled as an associate. And then after you have the experience, you get there. But at least that's a real security certification. So, Arturo, I think you need to determine the job you want, and then you're going to need to get training for the job that you want. You won't get it in school. Now, they will teach you some wonderful things in school. They'll teach you a lot of wonderful theory. I love it. They'll teach you to become more educated, which I love, potentially help you write a little better, proofread a little better. So all good stuff that comes from school. But they're not going to teach this career there, unfortunately. We got lots of people that have master's degrees in cybersecurity. We get people with PhDs in cybersecurity, and we have to teach them cybersecurity because the professors, if they really knew cybersecurity, would be working at a Cisco like I did, or they'd be working at a Palo Alto or Fortinet, etc. That's where your security people are. Don't do the security specialty. But again, Arturo, you got to figure out what job is it you want. Is it a security engineer? Is it an offensive security engineer? Is it a defensive security engineer? Is it a cloud security engineer? Is it off the cloud security engineer? I mean, or you want to be on the IAM side, which is different than security, but it's part of security. So there's lots of kinds of security engineers. So again, what career do you want? Career first, then the certifications. So if you told me, Mike, I want to go to Palm Beach, Florida, and I'd say, where are you at? And if you said, I'm in Miami, I'd say, get on 985 and drive to Palm Beach, Florida. Now, Arturo, if you told me that you were in Cuba, I'd say, okay, now can we get you to Canada first? And then from Canada, could you come to the US? What would the path be? So it's kind of like that. So it's the path changes based upon your goals. So those are kind of those things. So I need to know your goal to determine the path. We can't determine the path before the goal. Chris, do you want to go to the next one? Mano, you're currently taking 2 AWS certifications. Will it lead to a cloud engineer or a cloud architect? No, it will not. Now, the reason it will not is the certification is the name of a service and how to configure that service. And there is no engineering training in there. There's no, which involves, how this stuff works, not how to configure it. And for the architect, it's a design, present, and sell position. And again, there's nothing in any AWS certification that teaches how to do that, how to design. So nothing related to that. So we tell our students that we like them to get a certification for the following reason. It helps them get an interview. But we also tell people, once you're certified, to forget everything that you learned in that certification because it's not what you do as an architect. Some of it's appropriate for the engineering. So I would say it would give you I would tell you the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional would get you 5 to 6% of what you need to know to be an architect, and about 20% of what you need to know to be a cloud engineer. It's the other professional development that you need. It's the network, it's the data center, it's the industrial applications, it's the how stuff works, which is not covered in these certifications. So, mind you, that's not going to get you there. It'll be part of that. Come to my How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar next Thursday, and I'll tell you all the steps. But no, this is not going to lead to anything on its own. But you can still do it. You just need to figure out which career it is. Determine the architect and the engineer, and then there's a path of things to learn, and you can get it. And you will get it, and I want you to get it. So please take that completely free webinar on Thursday, and I'll tell you everything you need to do. Or you can see some of the videos on my YouTube channel that will explain it. But this is not a job getting based on certifications. A cloud admin role, yes, sure. But who needs admin people when we've got DevOps engineers who can replace 10 of them and like nothing? So unfortunately, no, but come to that webinar and I'll tell you exactly how to do it. I'll tell you all that you need to learn, all that needs to be on your resume, what you have to show to the hiring manager, your learning path, and you'll get it. Chris, you can go to the next one. Oh, awesome. After a cloud associate, can you specialize on a security specialty? Well, if you're asking if I would recommend any AWS security specialty or advanced anything, my answer was always no. And the reason my answer is always no is the AWS Advanced Security is not an intro to an intro to an intro to an intro to junior level anything. And 50% of what's taught in that course is how to use the cloud native tools, which most of your customers will not use. So no, I would not do that. I think the minimum certification in the world should be the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, or the Azure Solution Architect Expert, or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. I consider them to be about 1 week's worth of hard work if you train for them. Very basic. No, that won't teach you anything related to the job, but it will help you pass an exam, which will help you get an interview. Now, if you want to specialize in security, yeah, learn security. And you can basically do that and still learn security, be a cloud security architect, but that's not going to come from there. First, you have to determine whether you'll be an offensive security architect or a defensive security person. Because guess what? They're exactly different. Assuming you want to be offensive, then you've got to learn penetration testing tools like Kali Linux and learn how to hack. Learn vulnerabilities in operating systems. Learn how to break into things and buffer flows and DDoS attacks. And because you're going to be doing it, social engineering, etc. Those are the skills for the offensive security person. And there's a lot more. Now, if you wanted to be on the architect side, on the security side, it's more about writing security policies and training users and determining what your firewalls and your IDS, IPS systems look like, and what your identity and access management systems are going to look like, and the interplay between these two. And what can you do with regards to network layer security, like QoS, etc., rate limiting, etc., 802.1 authentication at the data center, for example. Do we need TACX or radius servers for the remote access users, or we can get away with Active Directory? That's architecture stuff. And again, that's not going to be covered in AWS anything. But you can absolutely, and we strongly encourage our students to pick a specialty, networking or security. We've got a video on how to do it for cloud engineers coming. I think we released it actually today, how to become a security specialist versus a network specialist. And we talked about offensive and defensive security. Chris from my team can do it. But first we have to determine whether you're an architect, which is a designer, or an engineer, which is the builder. And then we have to determine whether it's offensive or defensive. And then you can pick a specialty. That will drive all your certifications. Like the CEH Master is a great offensive security certification. The CEH Master is not the best architect certification, but if it's the only one you can get, we like it. So those are the things. Determine the job, then we determine if you know what the job is, then we know what the ideal brand is for the job, and then we know how to build you, but we have to determine the goal before we get to the destination. It's kind of like this. Would you just get on an airplane? Maybe you showed up in Lagos, which would be cool. Maybe you showed up in Cape Town. Maybe you showed up in Ethiopia or Eritrea. Or maybe you got to London or Dubai or Palm Beach, Florida for my house for dinner, which would be awesome. I'd love to meet you. So, that's the thing. Need to know the ultimate destination before we determine anything else. Chris, you want to go to the next question? Actually, while we're at it, if anybody's interested, we've got a 30% Memorial Day discount. I've gotten so many cloud hires this week, last week, and every other week, and I want you to be cloud hired too. Felon consultant, how do you become a cloud consultant, and what is that job like? Felon consultant means nothing to me. An architect is a cloud consultant. Some engineers are doing consultant. You could be a management consultant on the cloud. So cloud consultant is an irrelevant term. Could you tell me what kind of consulting you'd like to do? Management consulting, technology consulting, etc. Because the primary cloud consultant we're going to deal with is the cloud architect. They design, present, and sell a solution. That's consulting. Now, there's also management consultants who do the same thing. They create new business architectures. There's security consultants in the cloud. There's database consultants in the cloud. There's big data consultants in the cloud. So what kind of consultant, Ellen? Then I can help you get there. Chris, we can go to the next one. Benaj, what will be an approximate salary we can expect in the U.S. with fresh AWS cloud architect with 10 years of experience in IT as a DBA? Well, Benish Raj, it's going to depend on you. So here's the thing. I've had people like you get $300,000 jobs out of my, actually I'd say $275,000. I had a graduate that had about 10 years experience that got a $275,000 job leaving my program. But here's the thing. He focused extensively on soft skills. And he said, Mike, I know that I'm really a techie. And he said, I've got a lot of tech experience. He said, I want the leadership experience. I want the executive communication experience. I want the sales experience. I want to present myself and have the wall go in awe. So he took my program, this guy. I won't mention his name. We'll call him Peter. And when Peter took my program, he focused on that and got like a $300,000 job. Now, I have other people have asked Raj that want to come in and focus on the tech. It's like they're tech obsessed. Well, they're getting a $100,000 job because nobody wants a tech obsessed architect. So the key is, I'd say about 150 to 160 is normal for people that focus heavily on the communication side. I'd say if people focus exclusively on the tech side, they're never getting the job. And if they do, it's going to be $70,000 to $90,000. If you focus, if you've got a good understanding of the networking, the data center, and the tech concepts, and you've got brilliant skills, a $300,000 job after a year or two is easy. And some of my students get it fresh out of the class. So it depends on what kind of an architect you're going to be. What determines your salary? Your business, your executive presence, your emotional intelligence, your leadership skills, your sales skills. That's $100,000 to $200,000 difference in your career base, Raj. So what do you want to do? Is the thing. If you're certification focused and you've got 50 of them, I'm going to tell you, your salary is going to be low because people are looking for a digital transformation specialist, not a techie. And I'm going to tell you, Vinesh, when I've got people, Raj, so when I've got people that have a lot of certifications, they go on interview after interview after interview, and they can't get a job. They get asked about every non-architect thing in their life. And then when we strip that off, and when we take the tech stuff off, because DBA is not interesting to them, but what is? As a database administrator, I'm sure you implemented some things that were major. So coded this DBA, write a Python Spark script, pull information out of here. Get up the schema. We don't care as an architect. That's not what we're looking for. Now, what would be, we don't care if you've done Linux administration. We don't want you to do middle American because that's not architecture. That's admin stuff. Now, I'll tell you how to translate that to architecture thing. If you were able to talk about assisted customer design and deploying new Oracle database that improved uptime by 10%, that would matter. Design new tool to pull information from database to increase sales by 13% due to some kind of relational thing that you figured out. That's an architect thing, and that's what customers are looking for. Designed 3-tier website that involved a custom queue, some new website, and some special applications to improve the customer experience that increased sales by $200 million last year. That's what you did that's interesting. Design middleware for a platform that enabled this application to talk to this application, which increased employee productivity by 12%. That's what we're looking for. So this is not a world of tech. This is a world of transformation. That's the difference. So what we have to do is take the tech that you have, which is wonderful. Raj, life is cumulative. And all of that tech in your background is great. But we have to take the old tech, leave it as the old tech. The stuff that's in the last 5 years, we need to make that transitional tech because we're not looking for admins. We're looking for experts and designers and systems and digital transformation specialists. Then you learn the business skills, the design skills, the sales skills, the leadership skills, the executive presence skills, the emotional intelligence skills, the ROI modeling skills. Now you've got a career. And now you've got a high-paying job. So, these are the kind of things that we're really talking about. Asim, are there any tech skills involved? Yeah, a ton of them, but they're design skills. So here's the thing. This is coding skills. Tech. So, there's that. Coding like I was just playing on my phone. That's not what we do. That is a hands-on technical skill. Now, Asim, if I told you that you're connected to 6 different clouds and you've got to determine your traffic patterns, where you send to what, that's an architect thing, and that takes deep technical knowledge. But it's technical knowledge of how it works versus how to configure it. So, Asim, a building architect that designs a building understands buildings. They've got a good, strong knowledge of that building knowledge. They don't know how to use a hammer. They don't know how to use a screwdriver. They're not using the drill, but they're designing the building. So that architect designs the building. They interact with the customer. What do you want your new hotel to look like? How many floors? What kind of pools? 4 stars, 5 stars? How tall? You want a little pointy thing at the top of the skyscraper? How do we optimize it? That's the tech skills of the architect. They're deep tech skills, but they're the why. Where the engineering skills are the how. They're just a different set of tech skills. One might say you might need to know more how to design it than how. It's like practicing medicine. That is a very deep knowledge job. Someone comes into the office, they present themselves with a problem. I ask them questions. I then ask if I can examine them or baseline them. I make a diagnosis and a plan. That's what I used to do practicing medicine. Now, when I'm not practicing medicine, I'm an architect. Mr. Client, could you tell me about your business goals, your business pain points, your business challenge? Just like that same nurse practitioner or doctor that interviewed the patient. Then I say, can I baseline you? And they say, examine you. And they say, sure. And I bring in a bunch of cloud engineers and they do the baselining. Then I make a diagnosis, and then I make a plan. So doctor, interview a patient. Architect, interview a client. Doctor, assess the patient. Architect, assess the client. Doctor, make a diagnosis. Architect, make a diagnosis. Doctor, create the plan. Architect, create the plan. It's the same thing. Now, see, the doctor designs the plan. Do you know who carries out the plan? The nurses. The architect designs the plan. You know who carries out the plan? The cloud engineers. Not non-technical, different. But Asim, I'm going to tell you, the architect is 50 to 60% business, non-technical. So it's a very business job, and it is a lot less technical. There's a lot of what do you call it? A lot of entertaining clients, lots of presentations, lots of sales. 50 to 60% business, and about 40 to 50% tech for the architect. The engineer is about 100% business, 100% tech. And Krista Chow, you can go to the next question. Alex, yes, it does seem like everybody wants to be a solution architect these days without having any idea what the job even is. It will not be far from now where we see millions of CVs around the world. Alex, it's so easy. My average student gets 5 to 15 recruiter requests per day for interviews. How do you differentiate yourself? Well, if you're talking about your tech experience and you're talking about all the technical things you built, nobody cares. If you're talking about your digital transformation, if it's clear you've got some executive communication skills, did you write your resume in a certain way? Are you showing digital transformation? So here's one that won't get you hired. Set up website with S3, EBS, ELB, Amazon Aurora, like in EC2 instances. I see that person's resume is tossed out the room, as it is for 99% of the people. Now, architect a new 3-tier website that increased sales by 11% by improving customer experience. That's how you stand out. That's what architects do. How do you stand out? Designed BGP strategy to load share across 2 equal cost links to promote better performance, which improves this efficiency by this percentage. That's what an architect does, but has to be on the resume. So Alex, it's about talking about the transformation. So you got a really cool name. You may be from the same part of the world as me. And here's what I'd like you to think about. So if you had so I like to make, let's say I'm going to make a chicken souvlaki or a koto souvlaki. So I would need to know this. I would need to know, what is it first? And I'd say, okay, I need a stick to skewer the chicken. Then I need some garlic. I need some olive oil. I need some oregano. I need some lemon juice. Okay. No, I have to know how to combine those together. Now, if I can talk about my souvlaki shop that generated 1,000 euro or euros a day, that might be great. But I could talk about the souvlaki stock. I could talk about the process and why we made it a proprietary process that makes my souvlaki better. Then I can't say cooked it by putting chicken with lemon juice, this together. That's the technical piece. We want to talk about created a magical dinner by utilizing chicken this, and this, which delighted the guests. I hate saying it that way, but the architect is a lot of window dressing. Okay, the point of the architect is as follows. You got a sales rep who doesn't understand technology. The sales reps are real smart, real aggressive, and paid to sell, 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 sell. That's what they're paid for. They'll sell anything, whether it'll work or not, because they don't know how it works. So why is the architect actually there? The architect is to go with the sales rep to make sure that you've got somebody that knows how the tech works, that can design the solution and help the sales rep sell it, so you don't design something that won't work. So when you understand that most of these jobs are pre-sales, design, present, and sell, what needs to be on your resume is design, present, and sell. And Alex, if you want to know all the resume stuff and all how to do it, join me on the completely free Azure Solution Architect, on the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar on Thursday. But also join us for the completely free Azure Solution Architect Bootcamp in June. And Alex, if you, I'm not sure where you're from, but if you're from Greece with that cool name, let me know. And if you're not from Greece, that's okay too. But Alex, if you are from Greece, Yasso, είμαι ευχαριστημένος που ήσουν εδώ σήμερα. And I think you may actually understand me because I think I recognize your name from the other day. Chris and Chad, we can bring the next one. How about remote work? I've been working remote for 20 years as an architect. Doesn't matter which airport I fly out of each day to go places. There's not enough in my city to work. Always meeting clients, so lots of airplanes, and less airplanes now because we've got better video conferencing. Confidential Corp, can your first job in the cloud ever be remote? Lots of our students' first cloud jobs are remote. So of course you can. Of course you can. And Gina, how can you land an entry level? You have basic knowledge of SQL, Power BI. I don't even know what SSIS is and Certified Cloud Practitioner. Well, and Jenna, I don't know what job you're looking for. So you just give me a bunch of tech stuff. That tech stuff can be completely relevant and useful or completely irrelevant based upon the career. So I don't like to recommend just learning tech stuff, and just tech stuff doesn't really mean anything to me. Now, if you tell me, Gina, what you'd like to do, I can tell you what you could do and how to get there. But you just said entry level, and for the most part, there are no entry level jobs. And I'm going to explain to you why. And I made a video series on why there is no entry-level jobs and why not to train for entry-level jobs and to train for good jobs like solution architect or cloud architect or cloud engineer jobs. Here's the reason why. In the old days, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and my CCIE number was 7417, for example, when it was a 2-day exam, we had people that did this. They were called admin people. They were junior entry-level people. They would put the router in the rack, zip, zip, screw it in, cable it up, and turn it on. Plug a modem in so someone like me could set it up via a call. Now, do we need to do that anymore? No, because most of the stuff is pre-made by the cloud, so that admin role is gone. Now, we used to use admins to configure stuff. Now, guess what? There are entry-level people to configure stuff. One DevOps engineer can replace 10 to 20 admins or entry-level people, so we don't need it. Now, Gina, we got to look at the economy and what's going on with market forces. We've got sky-high rates of inflation, and it's not just the consumer inflation. The employers are doing it. The money supply is going down right now because the Fed's raising interest rates, which is a good thing to stave off the horrible levels of inflation that we're having, which would ultimately lead to a recession on its own. So now we've already had 1 quarter of negative GDP growth, and if we look at economic indicators in the U.S., mortgage applications are down. We can look at certain companies, their earnings have not been great, and future guidance from a lot of these tech companies has been bad. So what do they need? Good, strong, capable people. When we hire an entry-level person, we may need to put 150 to 200,000 person to supervise them for 6 months. So it might cost us $100,000 of lost money just to hire an entry-level person to hope to train them. So in today's world, the point of the cloud was to get rid of all those entry-level people and reduce your staff. Next, economic environment now is conducive to have experts, but get rid of the weak. So I encourage you to find a career that's better than entry level, upskill yourself, do the professional development, and 6 months from now, get yourself a non-fresher job, a good job, a strong job, and build yourself a great career. I don't have any students to take entry-level jobs. I've never taken an entry-level job. I'm going to tell you this. There's no reason to take an entry-level job. Train for a job that's not an entry-level job. Let somebody else fight for the entry-level job. And when you don't get an entry-level job and they get an entry-level job 2 years from now, and you've already got a good job now, 5 years from now, your salary will be triple or quadruple the people that are focused on the entry-level jobs. You don't have to start at the bottom. That's what education is for. Train for the things you want. But I will give you one guidance. For a better career, don't use abbreviations like SSIS because they will preclude you from getting the better jobs because executives and hiring managers don't like abbreviations. Akeem Desai, will having a degree in IT management add value to a cloud architect career? I wouldn't. What would add value to a cloud architect career would be an MBA or a business degree. So once we start, first one things, we don't manage IT. We're not an IT manager. We're a designer, presenter, and seller. So it'll help because it's a degree. Now, having a degree is great. And I'm going to tell you about 1 in 3 employers won't hire you if you don't have a degree. Now, what does your degree need to be in? It doesn't matter. It could be in English literature. It could be sociology. Your degrees like mine could be in business and healthcare. I only know internal medicine and medicine. I know internal medicine, architecture, and business. It's the only 3 things that I know. So I don't have any tech degrees, and I advise people not to get tech degrees. I advise people to learn the tech and be master of the tech because they won't be taught it in school. Master the tech. Become great at the tech. The tech for their career. That's the key. Their career. So you go to school. Let's say you get a PhD. Now, in those 7 years, you're writing your thesis. Maybe 5% of them is actually appropriate for your job. The other 95% is garbage. Now, that garbage is not garbage because it promotes education and teaches academic writing, teaches you how to defend a dissertation, teaches you statistical analysis, etc. All kinds of good stuff. But let's say you had a PhD in cloud architecture. The customer wants someone who can design, present, and sell and not write a thesis. Now, the thesis is like this. The architect needs to be able to write this and to press it down into 3 pages for the executive. So it's a totally different thing. So the closest degree for an architect is an MBA. Why? We need the business acumen to ask the client about their business. We need the leadership skills to manage our engineers, manage the client, etc., and help sell. We need sales skills. Now we're going to have to do an ROI model and show the customer that the expected value of the solution is greater than its cost. MBA thing. We have to be able to look at economic factors, supply and demand curves, producer prices, inflation, energy cost, etc. And because we're digital transformation specialists, we need to be able to look at that information, predict the future, and help advise our customers like an economist. So MBA skills will be much more valuable. If you have a degree in IT management, brilliant, you've got a degree and it's excellent, excellent, excellent. Because it doesn't matter. It matters, it's helpful if you have one. But if you're going to say, hey, what degree would I get? I'd tell you to get a business degree any day of the week. I have an MBA. Chris on the other end of this call has an MBA. Alonzo from my team has an MBA. We like that because that's the business acumen that you need to have. If not, we teach you the business acumen in our course because those are the critical skills you need to know. Great question, Akam. Someone with a work permit in the U.S. will earn the same salary as someone with a permanent resident. Absolutely. It's illegal not to pay the same things for people that are working on H-1B visas as citizens. Now, what I will tell you this, I will say that if the range is 150 to 300 for a position, unfortunately, some companies will pay like 180 to the H-1B visa person, and 250 to the person that's already living here, but not always. And if they do, you have to understand there's legal costs that are involved in it. There's lots of challenges bringing people over, which I don't like, and I think everybody should get paid based upon their value, what they contribute to the organization. Meaning, if you make the organization more profitable, I think you should be paid more than someone that makes the organization less profitable. And where you come from is insane. It's irrelevant. The world needs the best and brightest from wherever they come from. So I believe in paying people based upon the impact they make to the organization. And here's the thing I come to say. The best organizations, the really good ones, pay you based upon your impact. There are some really great companies that pay on impact. There are companies that are very aggressive in their sales programs. They're aggressive in rewarding employees for doing good. There are also companies that basically like, hey, you're the same, here's the pay range in the area. Those, everybody's paid much less, but they're all paid almost the same. You know what happens in these companies? The good people, the best, they leave and they go to the companies that pay them for better skills. And those companies that pay everybody the same thing, they struggle long term because they don't have the motivation for the people to do it. So it goes either way. But yes, if you work for the right company, you'll earn the same. And if you work for the wrong company, you'll still be paid so well, you'll have a great job. And then get off the work permit, get a green card, and then really, really never have to think about, who could sponsor a visa again, and just get what you like. That would be my recommendation. It's what my family did. My Greek family that came to America. Ciao. Been asked, Ciao, can we get a recording of this session? Yeah, it's going to be stuck on our YouTube channel and it's going to stay here forever. Or at least for a little while, and then we'll pull them down to keep them fresh. Same link. And Gina, what is your advice to start your career? Most of the job openings want 5 years experience or more. That's not true. Most job opportunities want 20 years experience or more. And guess what? It doesn't matter. So no one cares about experience. They care about competency. They all list 1 million years experience, but it doesn't matter. Here's the thing. My students get 5 to 15 interview requests every single day of the week. So 5 to 15 interview requests every single day of the week. Many of them have never worked in tech in their life. So why is somebody reaching out to them? Because they see something on their portfolio they want to interview. Well, Gina, if you apply via HR, you're going to get auto-rejected each time. So you shouldn't be applying via HR. You should build your brand. You should build your resume. You should build your LinkedIn profile. You should be writing content. You should create and make it that the world comes to you. I have my students co-authoring books, doing volunteer training, helping with content creation, writing blogs with me. Why do I do it? So I can get them exposure and use my brand to, it's called authority hacking, to help my students. The first tech job that I wanted 10 years experience and I had 0. The second, my first tech job was a senior network engineer. My next job was a principal network architect. I had 6 months experience. They wanted 15 years. I then joined a company as a principal architect where they wanted everybody to have close to 20 years. I had 2.5. So to me, the job description is just a suggestion. Now, Gina, I want to actually ask you this. I want you to think about this. On my right hand here, which is going to be on the left side of the screen, my right hand here, I've got an 8-year-old little girl. She's got yellow hair, pigtails. She's got a beautiful smile. She just hacked into the Pentagon. She hacked into the NSA. She hacked into MI5, MI6, and the Israeli Mossad. This little 8-year-old girl with the cute pigtails, smiling. Yeah, this is fun. On my left hand, I've got a team of 50 cloud security engineers and architects that all have 25 years experience. And so these 50 together with 25 years experience have, how many years of combined experience? They got defeated by the 8-year-old girl. So now all these people come and apply to me. The 50 people with pedigree and credentials, and the 8-year-old girl is here. And I interview them all. And she says, I hacked into the Pentagon by doing this. They didn't know how to do it. I hacked into England by doing this. They didn't know how to do it either. And when I saw what the Mossad did, I say to that girl, you're hired. How much would you like to be paid? And she says, huh? I say, well, if you can do better and outsmart these 50 people with 25 years experience, you're the person I need on the team. I'm firing all of them. I need you to train my new team on security weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Hiring managers want competent. Here's what hiring managers want, Gina. I'm going to tell you right now. And I'm also going to tell you this. When you get that interview, 50% of your interview is based on tech and the other 50% is not. You want to know what it's based upon? Hiring managers want someone that can do the job. That's technical competency. That's different than experience. You can be doing something for 1,000 years and do it wrong if you were a vampire and still not be experienced. I know doctors with 50 years experience that were basically killing people on their first day when they got out of school, that 50 years later are more dangerous because they were bad doctors. Now, experience made them worse doctors, not better doctors. I also know kids in medical school that are so smart, I'd let them take care of me with zero experience because they're that good, that smart, and that competent. So hiring managers want someone who is technically competent. Number one. Number two, hiring managers want someone that they can trust. How do you think most people mess that up on an interview? They lie. Three, hiring managers want someone that knows what they know and knows what they don't know. They don't make major mistakes, like the BGP mistake at Facebook. Employers then want energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate people. Who do you want? Waking up when it's time to work, or someone that's excited to be there? Hiring managers want an energizer. This is the emotionally intelligent person. Hi, everybody. How are you? Oh, Joey, how can I help you? Hey, Sally, how you doing? Chris, how you doing? Joe, what are you doing? Good to see you all. Employers want team players. Architecture is a team sport. You don't design an architecture by yourself. You design architectures with 50 people or more to design something. You got to lead the team. You know what the last thing they want is? Someone that's willing to go above and beyond. Because sometimes things happen outside of normal business hours. Some days are easy and some days are that. And they want to know that you're going to be there when they need you. So keep that in the back of your mind. So I don't worry about what's on a job description. I've never worried what's been on a job description. My students get hired every day of the week for jobs that on 20 years experience, and they've got none. And they're still getting hired. Why? Because they're great. AWS hires lots of people without experience. AWS is smart. Why do you think they were to build what they build? They're smart. They care is the person competent. Number one, incompetent causes outages. Competent is good. They care about their attitude, their communication skills, their sales skills, their presentation skills, their ethics, their integrity, their attitude. That's what gets people hired. That, not experience. But good question. Be intentional. Is learning Power BI important? Depends on the job. For an architect, Power BI is a completely irrelevant skill. For a data scientist, it's a critical skill. For a data analyst or like a data architect, it might be a critical skill. So it's depending upon the job. Be intentional. There's 1,000,001 things to learn in tech. And if you learn the things for your job, you'll be great. But it's basically, you say be intentional, which is great. Be intentional about learning the things, setting your intention and going somewhere. Architects don't design, sell, design, present, and sell. So for example, Power BI is irrelevant for the architect. Now knowing what it is useful, but that's it. By comparison, if I've got a data scientist, they're going to be using Power BI and machine learning and all these algorithms and all kinds of calculus and all kinds of advanced statistics. I mean, all kinds of stuff, Python, R, and all kinds of things that I don't even know because that's not my job. But the point is, the job determines what skills you need to learn. It's not the cloud. The cloud's like an airport with millions of planes going everywhere. Each plane goes to a different destination. So if I go to Dubai, I get a different visa than if I go to Cameroon. So I might get different travel injections based upon where I'm going to. I get different travel injections for Africa, and I get different travel injections based on India. Why? Because wherever we go in the world, there's different native things that I'm not immune to coming from America. So where other people that travel to America, they'd have to get shots to come here because we have different diseases and bacteria than people would have at home. So, depending upon the country determines what I need. Same thing, the career determines what I need. So hope I helped you with that. And please tell us what you want, and then I can tell you. But otherwise, it's just, I don't want to just say learn some tech, because it's relevant for some cloud jobs and not others. Raj, employers you work with will help with TN visas to go through your architect program. Raj, I have nothing to do with immigration. I am not an immigration attorney. Nothing to do with it. Now, I've had Canadian students get lots of jobs in Canada, really good ones. Lots of them. I had someone living in Nigeria that's now living in England, and he's doing great. I've had people from India that made it to Canada and got great jobs. And we're excellent at getting people jobs, but we are not I'm going to say that we are not immigration attorneys. So I don't do anything with people's visas. That's for immigration attorneys. They know how to do it. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an architect and a medical person. I deal with architecture. I'm an expert on getting people jobs, but I am not an immigration attorney. This is, like I say, I know my job and not somebody else's. That's somebody else's job. There's all kinds of laws and regulations, where you come from, what you can do. I don't know any of them, but that's what immigration attorneys do. And companies that hire those people will use their own immigration attorneys, and they will pay thousands and thousands of dollars to it because they need that level of expertise that they don't have, even with their attorneys in-house, and I don't have because I'm not a lawyer. But it's a good question. Very good question. Is it recommended to have a mentor in an IT career? Well, yeah. But the mentor matters. I've had a mentor for 25 years. Now, at one point, somebody asked me and they said, hey, I'd like to be a cloud architect. And I asked some software developers and cloud engineers, and they told me I couldn't do it this way. And I said, well, a software developer doesn't know anything what a cloud architect does, and a cloud engineer doesn't know what a cloud architect does. So if you have those people as a mentor that are not in the right position, they will kill your career. By comparison, if you found a principal architect at Amazon, or a principal architect at Azure, or a principal architect at Google, or a VP of cloud architecture at one of these companies, and you ask them to mentor you, they could tell you exactly what to do. So the key, what happens is finding mentors, is you got to look for the following. You got to look for someone that's extremely emotionally intelligent. You got to look for someone that loves mentoring, which is very small in number. You also have to look for people that are experts in their field. And here's the reason why. I've got people in a year building careers that would have taken them 10 to 12 years to learn on their own, and $250,000 of training. Because here's why. We are so focused on learning just what people need to know for their career and maximizing just those skills that there's no fat in our 500 hours of training. None. Literally none. By comparison, if I was going to teach it like, here's a little Linux, here's how to do this, here's how to do this, here's how to do this, then I couldn't do it in 500 hours. I couldn't even do it in 5,000 hours. And yes, what would happen is if I tried to put the person in the jack of all trades status, what will happen is human brain can only remember so much. And that's why you've got a cardiologist who does the heart. Actually, I have 10 different kinds of cardiologists for the heart because the heart is too big for any kind of doctor. But the point is there's a neurologist that does the neurology. There's a nephrologist who does kidneys. There's an ophthalmologist that deals with the eye. There's an otolaryngologist that deals with the mouth. And the reason I'm saying this, and the throat and the ears. Why is this? Because it's impossible to know everybody else's job. So when you get a mentor, you should get a specialist mentor, an expert mentor, and they should be in the career field that you like. It's kind of the main reason why that's kind of why, I built our program. It's a group mentoring program. So that way I can get people to places in their career better, faster, and cheaper than they ever could on their own. So yes, having a mentor is an extremely, extremely, extremely good and critical thing. Mohammed. Salam alaikum. Hi, Mike. You're doing a career shift from civil engineering, and you're confused between two paths, DevOps and cloud, because you live in the Middle East and cloud jobs are not so popular, but there is more DevOps jobs. Well, Mohammed, I would say let's plan for the future. So about 20 years ago, I went to Dubai. And, I had no idea what to expect. It was paradise, but that's neither here nor there. And when I went there 20 years ago, I was doing a voice, data, and video project to the home in the Dubai Marina. It was basically one of the first of its kind in the world, fiber optic to every home. Now, I'm going to tell you this. There is a lot going on in the Middle East, a tremendous amount of it. And temporarily, what's going on is lots of people are outsourcing their software development and their DevOps overseas, and that's giving them more jobs. But Mohammed, look at what's really going on. The Middle East is undergoing extreme development. Money's coming in from all around the world. We've got places like Dubai, Internet City, and places like Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia have lots and lots of money and lots of education. Look at Egypt and the education that's going on there. So there's going to be a huge influx of cloud. Because the cloud is really the next logical evolution of the network and the data center. So what I predict, Mohammed, is if you focus on the architecture side, as more shift to the Middle East, you'll be ahead of that supply and demand curve, meaning you'll have a critical skill, which almost nobody has. And it's almost so bad that I've been dreaming about translating my course into Arabic because I think so much is going to be there. So I truly believe that you can do any job you want in the Middle East. If you enjoy programming, and that's your goal, and you love to sit behind a computer and program and automate software releases, but it's an all-day thing behind the computer, then DevOps is a brilliant career. Brilliant. And you should do it. But if you don't like being behind a desk and you wanted to be an architect, there is so much work in the Middle East. I don't know where you live, but if you can get on an airplane and jump there quickly, I can show you millions of places in the Middle East where there's huge amounts of money and lots going on in the architecture side. And Mohammed, I've done a lot of work in the Middle East, and in many cases, they have to bring in expatriates from England and the US to actually do the job, even India. There's a lot of educated and capable people in the Middle East, lots of them. And truth be told, they don't need to bring in people. They can do it themselves with the right training. So I personally believe there's lots and lots and lots of good jobs that you could actually do there, Mohammed. I think it's a wonderful career, either or, but it's got to be based on what you're happy. And I really wish you'd come back more so we can talk further in depth on this. And I really like to invite you to my How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar next Thursday. The link is in the description below. I'd love to know your goal. And for your question, shukran. And well, thanks so much for your advice. Really love you and your videos. A great person. Thanks so much. Shukran again. So Mohammed, thank you so much. I'm thrilled that you're here. I hope to see you here more soon. So we've reached the end of the time that my team has allowed me to be on camera today. I hope we had a good time. I love meeting and speaking to all you guys. It's incredible fun. So I'd love to see you in the Azure Solution Architect Bootcamp on June 14th, the week of that. It's completely free. Please join us. If you or someone you know is trying to get your first cloud architect or first cloud engineer job, we would love to train you. We have 30% off right now on every program we have. Take advantage of it. Even if you buy now and start later, that's still fine. We want to get you all cloud hired. Please join me next week for the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. The link is in the description below, plus my team is putting there. It's an honor and a privilege to speak with you all today. I've enjoyed speaking with you. I hope to speak to you very soon. Take care, everybody. Let's get you all cloud hired.